Hello Janesville, welcome to Park Place Views. I'm Maggie Hrdlicka, Management Information Specialist with the City of Janesville. And on this monthly program, we highlight what's going on in your city government, the City of Janesville, Wisconsin's Park Place. On the last episode of Park Place Views, I took a tour of the Central Fire Station with Fire Chief Randy Banker and Deputy Chief Jim Pinkowskis. If you missed that episode but would like to view that, you can find it on the city's website or on JATV's YouTube channel. Today, we're very pleased to get some information about the city's property assessment process, a very essential function in the City of Janesville. This month, I'm joined by our guest, City Assessor Jef Muelver. Jef joined the City of Janesville team in October of 2015. Previously, he had 20 years of experience doing contracted assessments for rural municipalities in north central Wisconsin. Jef holds several assessment certifications, including the Uniform Standards of Professional Appraisal Practice and Assessor 1, 2, and 3 certifications from the Wisconsin Department of Revenue. He currently sits on the Wisconsin Association of Assessing Officers Standards and Exemptions Committee and is acting chair of their Assessment Advisory Committee. Well, thanks, Jef, for being here today and allowing our viewers to get to know you as well as enlighten us on the property assessment process. So first, I told the viewers a little bit about you, but is there anything more you'd like to share about yourself?
Well, I've been involved in real estate since 1980. Everything from buying and selling to remodeling, new construction and demolition, both on residential and commercial properties. Experience has proven valuable in the assessment industry as a whole, so it's a very good background. It dovetailed in nicely. And outside of work, I guess I like to fish when the weather's good, and when it's not, I like to make fishing rods. So some
Great.
Other interests.
Cool. Well, we're so glad to have you here at the City of Janesville. So during my time here, I've come to appreciate that the property assessment process is a very long and complicated process. So can you just give us a little bit of a rundown at what a typical calendar year for your office looks like?
Sure. Our calendar's pretty full. In Wisconsin, January 1st is the effective date of the assessment. So that year's assessed value is based on that date each and every year. Although our numbers are based on that date, our work starts as soon as the previous work's completed. So our job is to produce the assessment roll, and here in Janesville, that takes a staff of 6 the entire year to complete. We have a task list of nearly 150 items, and that gets our attention over a 12-month cycle. So property owners may be familiar with some of those tasks, including scheduling of appointments for new construction and ongoing remodeling projects. But there's a fair amount of the work that the public doesn't typically see. And that's everything from our data maintenance to reports that we have to complete throughout the year for the state, to a number of other tasks.
Great. So, and that whole long, complicated process, that's done really for the purpose of administering the property tax, correct?
That is correct.
So the city provides this function for all of the taxing jurisdictions here in Janesville, but we only receive a portion of the property tax. Is that correct?
That is correct, yeah. There are 4 other taxing jurisdictions that the money goes to, and that's the School District of Janesville, Rock County, Black Hawk Technical Institute, and the state of Wisconsin.
And so in 2016, the city received about, 34% of the total property tax bill. And then how does that get distributed among the different programs and services that the city offers?
Yeah, the city retains about 34% of each tax dollar, and more than 2/3 of that is needed for fire and police protection and public works. So the city provides basically all the other services at about 10 cents on the dollar, which is a pretty lean organization.
Great. So I know Janesville has more than 25,000 properties here within the community, 65,000 residents, 25,000 properties. How does the assessor's office determine what each property owner contributes towards the total property tax levy?
pretty involved process. We have a large manual and a number of chapters in the state statutes that outline the assessment process. But basically, it's the gathering and interpreting of information. So we gather information on each property to be taxed and the sales that occur within the city. That information then is applied against the methods described in the Wisconsin Property Assessment Manual and the statutes to develop values for them individually. Property's value is part of the calculation used to determine its tax bill. The other part is the tax rate, which is determined by dividing the amount of the total tax to be collected by the city by the value of all of the taxable property within the city. So the total tax amount for a property would be the result of multiplying the tax rate by the individual assessment for the property.
Okay. So you have a staff of 6, and there are 25,000 properties in Janesville. Do you assess all 25,000 every year? That sounds like quite a task.
Not every year. We physically look at all properties with new and ongoing construction, those that have been sold, and there's also an opportunity for the owner of a property to request a review of their assessment. So changes in a parcel's legal description due to a split or merge may change its market value, therefore would need attention to the assessment. In a typical year, we'll conduct field visits to a total of about 10% of the property within the city. For this year, 1,800 real estate assessments were changed, and all the assessments don't change each year. That would happen during a citywide revaluation when all of the property, both residential, commercial, and all other taxable classes, are changed.
Okay, so how does a property owner's assessment change year to year?
Usually there is no change from one year to the next. If a property remains the same and the city does not revalue all of the property, then the assessments don't change. Physical changes to buildings or a change to the land are the main reasons that assessments would change, with the exception of a revaluation year. And in that revaluation, that's done across the city, so all the values would be changing then.
Do you know when our next revaluation is scheduled for?
Right now, we don't. We're looking at 2019 currently.
Okay.
And it's the change in the market that helps to determine the need for the revaluation. So if there's little or no change from one year to the next, we've seen that over the course of the last decade or so, then there isn't necessarily a need for revaluation, but we're getting closer to it now. So.
Okay. So now if someone's assessment is changed in a given year, how does your office notify them?
They receive, it's done by mail, and it's on a state-approved form, and they receive what's called a notice of assessment change that has general information, owner information, address, parcel information, and it compares their current year's changed assessment to their previous year's values.
Okay. And so sometimes I'm sure your office hears quite a bit, and it even makes it up to my office too sometimes. You hear people saying that they feel their assessed value is different than really fair market value of their property. What are your thoughts on this, and what can a property owner do to appeal their assessment if they feel it's warranted?
The best thing to do is to start by having a discussion with assessment staff. And that process should begin with verifying that the information used to develop the assessed value is current and accurate. And that first opportunity for appeal begins with the annual Board of Review. Beyond that, there are other opportunities, but that's the first step. So,
when does Board of Review generally occur during the calendar year?
The Board of Review is the culmination of the assessment process for each calendar year. And typically in the city here, it's late spring or early summer. So there's not a set date from one year to the next. It's a time frame that's typically shot for.
Okay, good. So I feel that lately we've been hearing more and more stories about property owners, in particular large corporations that appeal their assessment every year. What is the impact on your operation and the community at large of these appeals?
It's expensive. Appeals of high-value commercial property can cost all the other taxpayers money. And we just discussed that assessments are used to distribute the tax liability. In an appeal, only the subject property's assessment is under consideration. When a high-valued property gains the advantage of an artificially lowered assessment, through the appeal process, the balance of the property in the district has to come up with those tax dollars that are no longer coming from that subject property. The newly lowered assessment creates an inequity where one did not exist before, and litigation costs for a complex case can run well over $100,000. So there's a substantial amount of work needed from our department, and that total can be quite high, both our costs internally and externally.
The cost to the other taxpayers as well, yeah.
Yes.
So another concept that I've heard a lot of recently in the press and whatnot is dark store litigation. How are these dark store claims affecting communities? What are they?
Dark store claim is an appeals strategy based on the comparison of an open operating commercial facility using the sale of a vacant or dark store as a comparable sale. Those vacant stores often sell for less because they're not generating income.
Sure.
And can include restrictions on how the new owner may be allowed to use that dark closed facility, which can further affect the market value of it. The comparison to an operating busy retail store, for example, calling that similar to a closed dark building in the open market isn't a fair comparison, and it's become a popular tactic in commercial appeals because of earlier court decisions for the appellant. So as those are publicized, more commercial entities jump on board for that. So.
And I would guess that it has the same effect as the appeals we were just talking about on the property tax base at large, is that the other taxpayers are picking up the slack.
It does. That it doesn't change the total amount of tax needed to be collected. So when you have a property that's contributing a large dollar amount, changed to a much lower dollar amount, everybody else has to make up the difference.
Got it. So turning our attention to something a little less depressing. So on the city website, I know we have a tool called eGov, where the public can access property information. Can you tell us a little bit about eGov, what citizens can access using that? What's the capability of eGov?
Sure. eGov is a property search tool with some limited information like an address or a parcel number. A person can view previous tax bills, building permit history, owner information, and assessed values. By following the link to the property record card, assessment data can be viewed, which includes land and building information also. We also have the Maps tool available from our homepage, which is quite useful too. That provides access to an interactive land-based mapping system that includes aerial photographs, Google Street View photography, and a long list of data layers that offer information some people may not have seen before. So,
yeah, good stuff
quite
on
useful.
good stuff on the city's website.
Yes.
So Jeff, we've covered a lot here today, but as I stated at the beginning of our program, it's a long and complicated process, and so I'm sure there's a lot that we certainly aren't able to cover in a short program like this. So if viewers at home are interested in learning more about your office or the property assessment process, how can they get in contact with your office?
Well, from the city's website, on the government tab, our contact information is available for the assessors division. And that shows our office hours, phone and fax. They can get to my email through there. And our office is on just off the main lobby in City Hall.
Great, great. Well, thank you for being here and giving us some insight into your office.
Thank you.
Thank you, viewers, for tuning into Park Place Views. I hope you tune in next month as I'll be talking to City Clerk Treasurer Dave Godek. We'll be gearing up for the November election and also find out what else is going on in the always busy City Clerk Treasurer's office. And in addition to tuning into Park Place Views, you can stay connected to the City of Janesville in many other ways. Sign up to receive our email blasts. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. You can receive emergency alerts from the Janesville Police Department by Nixle. And for Park Place Views and the City of Janesville, I'm Maggie Hrdlicka. See you next month.